Hello, good evening, everybody. I think we have 1 more minute to go, so I am here to test the camera and the audio. So, if anybody of you can give me a thumbs up if you are able to hear me properly. Are you guys able to hear me properly? Can you give me a thumbs up? Thank you. So is it time? So it's at exactly 6 p.m. and I would like to start now. Yes. So let me begin by telling you a little bit about myself. My name is Prigya Arora and by education I did engineering from GBPAT Pantnagar and then I did law from IIT Kharagpur. After working for a few years at a law firm, I started with PA Legal. We handle all IP and technology law matters. So this is about me, and today I will be speaking about patent trolls. Though patent trolls are a relatively new topic for India because we haven't seen many cases in this area, but it is very popular in countries like US. So let us try to explore what patent trolls actually are and how they affect the market and the growth of economy and growth of IP. So great. So before starting to discuss about patent trolls, let us try to understand what exactly are patents. I know most of you must be knowing what exactly are patents. So I'm just briefing it out so that we are clear and we are more resourceful while we are understanding patent trolls. So what are patents? Patents is a set of exclusive right which is given by a sovereign to an inventor or an assignee for a limited period of time in exchange for a disclosure of an invention. What does that mean? It means if I have an invention, I will give it to the patent office, which is an intergovernmental organization, and after going through a set of procedures which we call the examination procedures, the patent office will grant me a set of exclusive right. For in India the time period is 20 years, which means for 20 years I have the right to exclude others from practicing my invention. What does practicing means? Practicing means I have the right to exclude others from making, using, offering for sale, selling and even importing that invention in India. So this is the overall view of what patent exactly is. So we say we have two motives of having a patent. The first one is that it pushes the technology forward. That means when I give the disclosure of the patent to the government reads that patent and after a period of 18 months from filing, it publishes that patent application on the portal, which means everybody can go there and study that patent application. It gives a lot of new knowledge to the domain, and with a whole lot of knowledge we have an edge to develop the technology further. The second aspect of the patent is it helps the inventors in gaining entry to the market. Whenever I have a patent, I have a monopoly of 20 years. That means for 20 years I can exclude people from using my invention, that is for practicing my invention. So these are two main aspects why patents are actually done. So now let's try to analyze and try to understand what exactly are patent trolls and how they dilute both the motives of the patent. It is very important for us to understand it dilutes both the motives of having a patent. So patent trolls are basically non-practicing entities that do not create products or services, but instead they have a huge IP portfolio which they use to threaten the technology companies, so that when they threaten the technology companies will come in some collaboration and give them some licensing fees, so that they do not have to face any litigation in courts. So this is the main objective of the patent trolls. So like I said, patent trolls dilute both the objective of patents. How? Firstly, they are restricting other people from using that invention or practicing that invention, and secondly, they in themselves are not practicing the invention. So I don't know why they want rights on patents. So we will analyze why they do that. So they basically do that because they have a very good business model, and that business model is to leverage money by restricting others to use the technology and by not using technology through themselves also. So let us try to see what process. So someone is saying they are not able to get what patent trolls are. So yeah, I am explaining the process what patent trolls go through, and through that process you will be able to understand that very well. So in the first step, they acquire the patents. How do they do it? They'll go on seeing all the bankrupt companies, all the failed startups, all the bogus patent applications which are available in the domain and nobody is using them. So they'll go on acquiring those patents through all these companies and startups. So once they have a good portfolio in a specific domain, they'll prepare a list of target companies, which generally are bigger companies and which are using certain technologies which are similar. I clarify, they are similar and not same. So that means first step is to get all the patents, and then is to prepare a list of corporate tech companies which are using those kind of technology, and then issue a threat letter to each of the companies which I have searched and which use similar technology. That means if I have searched for around 200 companies which are working in the area of, say, wristwatch, and I have acquired a huge portfolio of wristwatch patents which are not in use, I'll go on giving notices to all 200 companies, and mostly those 200 companies would not like to go on to the court and fight for infringement. So what they'll do is to shut me down. They'll give me license fee. So this license fee and acquiring this license fee is the business model of a patent troll. So I'll give you an example what happened very recently. There is an Irish shell company called Neodron. It was co-founded in 2018. From 2018 to 2019, what it did was it gathered all the touchscreen patents which were not in use. And once they had a good portfolio of touchscreen patent in 2019, it basically threatened everybody from Apple, Amazon, Asus, Dell, HP, Microsoft, Sony, Samsung, and the list goes on. It was more than 200 companies, and they threatened based on the series of technology patents of touchscreen technology what they had gathered within the span of 1 year, which is from 2018 to 2019. So it is said, though this matter is yet to be looked into through courts or through settlements. It is not as of clear now, but it is said that if they win the case, then what will happen is 80% of the Android tablets and 97% of the premium Android smartphone companies would have to pay a huge lot of sum to this Neodron, which is an Irish shell company, and we do not know who the owners are and what kind of practices do they do. So basically this is an example of a patent troll. So let us try to consider why they have a successful business model. Like, what are the loopholes in the court, or what are the loopholes in the business, or what are the loopholes in the commercialization. So first one is, in many of the jurisdictions, what happens is whenever there is a patent infringement suit, basically on process patents, the burden of proof of non-infringement lies on the defendant. What does that mean? Most of the technology patents are process patents. We claim, whenever we write a technology patent, we claim a method of doing something. So whenever there is an infringement suit against a method or a process, defendants are liable to prove that they are not infringing the plaintiff's patent. So when this is the scenario, what happens is all the defendants, they do not want to enter into rigorous litigation and prove that we are not liable. Secondly, the litigation cost in US is of an average from $1 million to $5 million. So for an average patent troll case, so many of the companies, they do not want to enter into litigation to avoid this litigation cost. And the timeline is also over 2 years, like it is the average is around 18 months. So spending $1 to $5 million, then waiting for 18 months, and causes a huge distraction for the management of the companies. So what they mostly do is they go out and settle the matter with the patent troll. So that's why the settling of matter is very, very easy. That's why I say they have a very good business model. So let us try to analyze another example of Cloudflare. I'm sure you all must be knowing about Cloudflare. It is a very famous cybersecurity company. It offers a huge amount of services in cybersecurity services. So recently what happened is a company named Blackbird. So Blackbird is basically a law firm which had acquired a number of patents. So Blackbird, what it did was it went after Cloudflare and Blackbird acted as a patent troll and it went after Cloudflare. So for Cloudflare, even if it was cheaper to settle the case with Blackbird, Cloudflare thought that it would set a bad precedent and it should fight back. So what Cloudflare did, Cloudflare acted very, very smartly. It started off with a contest for searching prior arts of not only the single patent application which was the basis of the infringement suit, but for all patent applications of Blackbird. So Cloudflare for the first time, it went on with this contest and it gained a huge amount of responses from people around the state for the prior arts, and then it filed a bar complaint against company for attorneys for ethic rules. So when Cloudflare started taking all these measures, it became cumbersome for Blackbird itself. So it is about making the process difficult for the plaintiff so that he himself moves away. So Cloudflare had a very easy win against Blackbird, but the thing is Cloudflare still wasted, I would say, 2 years on litigation, and it involved like 1500 pages of preparing legal briefs, and it was expensive, it was time consuming, it was distracting. So from business point of view, I don't know whether it was a good idea or not, but Cloudflare did it to teach a lesson to patent trolls. Yeah. So another thing, so let us look at what can we do, or what a company can do if they receive a threatening notice from the patent troll. So first is, if you receive a threatening notice from a patent troll, doing a lot of research is a very good idea. So it is said we do not have to fight for the patent, but we have to fight for patent infringement. We have to see whether the suit in itself is valid or not. So I'll give you another example what happened with Apple recently. It is a very recent case. I know everybody of you might be using or have seen Apple AirPods and Apple AirPods Pro. So what happens with these AirPods, and with AirPods Pro, they use wireless technology, basically Bluetooth technology, for listening music or listening audio and speaking. So One eWay is another company which said that it has been in practice and has a very good patent portfolio in this domain. And One eWay in the threatening notice also said that it is one of the pioneer in selling the products based on wireless technology. But when Apple started doing the research, it found that in past 2 years they do not have any product. When they visited the website of One eWay, they found a huge number of patents written on them, so that clarified that it is a patent troll. And through the demo videos which Apple got from One eWay showed that in past 2 years they only had 173 views. So in no manner they could be leading manufacturers, or they could be using this technology. So this is how Apple got to know about the patent troll. So at this point I would like to clarify that there are companies which we call non-practicing entities, and a patent troll is a subset of a non-practicing entity. What happens is, like, I have this pen. Suppose, let us consider that this pen I have developed and it is inventive in nature, like for exemplary purposes, and let us consider I have a patent on this pen. Something about this pen is very novel. Maybe the rotating mechanism and the click mechanism it has is new, and we have a patent on it. So let us try to see if I am a patent troll, or I am a non-practicing entity which is a research organization. So there are certain kind of entities, say research organization, which also license the patent, but they are not patent trolls. Why? Let us try to see. So if I am a patent troll, what I will do is, I have a patent on this technology. I'll go to all pen manufacturers. For example, I'll go to Parker, I'll go to Perry Garten, I'll go to Faber-Castell and say, you are infringing my product, you are infringing my technology, you are infringing my technology, and you are infringing my technology. And what I am trying to do is, I do not want to manufacture this pen, and I do not want others to manufacture this pen unless they give me a license. So this is a clear case that the whole motive of getting a patent on this technology is to earn licensing fee with no intent to commercialize this technology. So clearly I am a patent troll. If I am a research organization, what I would do is, I am a research organization and I do not want to manufacture pen. Then I'll go to these pen manufacturers, say Pericarden, or Faber-Castell or Parker, and I'll say I want to license my technology. I have developed something which is very new and I have a patent on this, and I want to license this technology so that you can give it to public or you can manufacture it, and then I'll get licensing fee. So the whole intent here is that this technology gets commercialized on licensing. If that is my intent, I am in no way a patent troll. I am just a research organization. So I said this point to clarify that all people who are not manufacturing or who are not practicing the invention might, like, all people cannot be patent trolls. There could be some entities which are not patent trolls, and the whole purpose behind them is research. So let us now try to see another interesting example of patent troll which happened. I think it is also a very recent case, and WordLogic filed a case against Wikipedia. So WordLogic is a company which held a bunch of patent application in predictive writing field. So what is predictive writing field? I think most of you might be knowing we have predictive writing in our mobile keyboards. We have it on Gmail, we have it on Wikipedia, we have it on almost every platform that predictive writing is there. So what WordLogic did is it filed case against 12 companies, and one of them was Wikipedia. So when the threatening letter it came to Wikipedia also started doing a lot of research. So Wikipedia found that before Wikipedia they had filed the case against Unified Patents. They had filed the case against Flesky. So Unified Patents had filed the case against WordLogic to invalidate their patent. But just before invalidation proceedings could conclude, WordLogic settled the matter with Unified Patents. Now why did they do that? They did that because if their patent had been invalidated, the rest of the 11 suit would be bogus, because if the patent is invalid, they cannot claim anything. So they decided to settle the dispute with Unified Patents. Then what happened? Wikipedia also found that they had in the threat letter it was written that there is an ongoing litigation against Flesky, and they showed the basis that they have filed the case against so many other people. So when Wikipedia did more research, they found Flesky had given a harsh response to WordLogic, and WordLogic had taken back the case. And in the threat letter, on the other hand, it was written that the matter is still pending in the court and they have a huge case in it. So that was also false. So all the elements of the threat letter, it came out to be false. So then Wikipedia sought a declaratory relief from the court that they do not infringe the patent, firstly. Then they sought the declaratory relief that WordLogic's patents are invalid due to prior art which are available, and that in any way, even if it is valid, they do not infringe on their patent. So sometimes the research on the elements which are written in the third threat letter becomes very important. So let us try to analyze what other things what we can do is. So if we are in if we have again received a threat letter from patent trolls, what would be our action? So another action could be to ask from the plaintiff or the person who sent the threat letter, ask for working models, ask for prototypes, ask from jurisdiction they are practicing their rights, and it is about making the process as annoying and painful for them, so that they are like, we do not want to continue with the litigation with you. So this is another approach what people with tech companies they use. Like if they do not want to defend, they'll make the process difficult for the other party as well. Then another thing what many of the tech companies they implement is cross licensing and patent pooling. For example, we have Open Innovation Network, which is very famous for Linux platform, and many of the companies like IBM, Microsoft, and mostly all technology companies are part of that platform. So they form a patent pool and they cross license the technology among themselves, so that when they face any of these litigation matters or bogus litigation matters, they have a huge amount of patent portfolio. Like they together have a huge amount of patent portfolio, so that they are able to evade from the patent trolls. So next, there is so another thing what I would like to share is the patent trolls in US is very high as compared to patent trolls in Europe or in India, say. So what is the reason behind it? So one of the reason behind is in US each party generally bears its own cost in patent litigation. That means if two parties are there, then both the parties are going to bear their own litigation fee. But in Europe, what happens is there is a fee shifting mechanism. The party which loses the case has to bear the fee for both the parties. So that is another factor why there has been less number of patent trolls in Europe than in US. And another thing why there are less patent trolls in India than any of the country including US and Europe is our lovely section 3K. So section 3K of the Patent Act prohibits computer invention per se from patenting. So when computer invention per se is prohibited from patenting, what happens is for us it becomes very difficult to get a software patent, and most of the patent trolls occur in the domain of software patents or high-tech domain. So as it is, we have very less software patents, so a suit for infringement is very difficult to find. Then we have another clause of which demands working statement for a patent. If working statement of a patent is not filed, then we can either go for compulsory licensing or rectification. And failure of furnishing non-working statement creates a presumption of non-working. Like if we are not filing that statement which is filed under form 27, then the patent office will consider that we are not working out our invention. If it is not, it is also an offense under our Patent Act, that if we are not furnishing the information or we are giving a false information of workability of the invention, then it again becomes a punishable offense. So that is one reason we do not face much of the patent trolls, because we have to give working statement to the patent office. And another provision in our act is like we can sought declaratory relief against groundless threats what we receive. So if patent trolls try to threaten us again and again, so we can go for declaratory relief. We have a provision to seek declaratory relief against groundless threats. So this is all about the Indian perspective and why we do not face much of the patent trolls in India. And I would like to complete by saying that patent trolls are not bad, they just have a good business model. So their business model is very very good. Otherwise they are doing everything in like legitimate corners of the law. So yes, now I would like to take up some questions. So anybody is free to put in questions. I would love to answer those questions. So I hope I clarified what patent trolls are and what do they exactly do and how to stop against or how to take action if we fight. So someone is asking, ma'am, have you ever come across a patent troll case? So yeah, I have read a lot about patent troll cases, but as I practice in India mostly, so I do not have and I do not have had an opportunity to work on a patent troll case. So it is just a new topic for us, and let's see how we go about it. But it is very very interesting. I would urge all of you to read about patent trolls. It is a fun topic and very very interesting to see what all things are going globally around the patent domain and around the IP domain. Any more questions? So I think we do not have more questions, so I would like to end this by still saying that patent trolls are not bad. They have a very good business model, and if they are there to earn money, there is something we have to do against them. So yes, aimlessly aiming is saying, I am curious as to why you think patent trolling is justified. I am not justifying patent trolling. I am just saying that if you want to be against it, then we have to have stricter law to stop them. If we are not implementing those strict laws, that means we are not against it. And in certain scenarios, when they are earning money for a country, they are leveraging or they are gaining money for that country as well. So if we want to stop that practice, we have to have a stricter laws against it. So I am in no manner justifying patent trolling. I'm just saying they have a good business model. I hope I'm clear. So now I would like to thank Janvi and Govind for inviting me here, and I hope to be with you in future as well. Thank you so much for joining. I had a very lovely time interacting with you all. Hope to see you all soon. If you have any questions, you can post them to me on LinkedIn or to the virtual lawyer, and I'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you. Bye bye.